I'll call this meeting to order. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Should virtual attendees wish to address council during either the public comment period or the question and answer period, use the raise hands feature in your webinar control. When it is your turn and are prompted, unmute your microphone, state your name, ask your question. Once your question is ended, you'll be muted again. I have one addition, flying the Ukrainian flag at Fort Nelson. Are there any council additions? Are there any CAO additions?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes for the Special Regional Council meeting of February 9th, 2022, Special Regional Council of February 14th, 2022, Regional Council of February 14th, 2022. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt those minutes? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any virtual attendees who wish to comment on tonight's agenda? Mr. Blaine? Thank you. Administration report number 22, land acknowledgement. Ms. Jacobs.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So tonight, Hillary and I, she's dialing in by Zoom tonight, but tonight we'll be speaking to you just to provide an update on the municipality's work to develop a land acknowledgement statement. So as you'll recall, we met with Regional Council August 9th of 2021. And at that time, we were directed to prepare a report that identifies potential land acknowledgement statements in collaboration with both First Nations governments and Indigenous organizations. And following that, Hillary and I came back to Regional Council in December of 2021. And at that time, we received direction to continue working with our engagement partners, both First Nations governments and Indigenous organizations, to develop the municipality's land acknowledgement statement, as well as take the opportunity to learn more about the culture and history of the Indigenous peoples of the region. So throughout the past several months, as you're well aware, Hillary and I have been engaging in conversation with several First Nations governments, as well as various Indigenous organizations. And I think this has certainly provided a positive opportunity to identify, for instance, topics of mutual interest to both our partners as well as the municipality itself. So to that end, we've come to you tonight to discuss an interim land acknowledgement that would be in recognition of engagements that are currently underway. So I'll let Hillary provide more information about the interim statement that we've provided.
Thank you, Gabby. Hi, Mayor and Council. So you'll see attached to this report, and consistent with Regional Council's direction, is an interim land acknowledgement that has been drafted for your consideration. In keeping with respectful and meaningful engagements that are mindful of a community's existing priorities, providing an interim statement recognizes that engagements are underway and allows time for continued collaboration with First Nation governments and Indigenous organizations without restrictive timelines. Providing a land acknowledgement is a way to welcome audiences and inform others of the culture and people and history of the Indigenous peoples of the region, and demonstrates respect for their traditions. An interim statement may be provided wherever the speaker feels it is appropriate, and it's generally recommended to be included at the start of public meetings as well as meetings with external organizations. Overall, this interim measure is intended to provide a little bit of guidance during opportunities to give a land acknowledgement statement when they arise, while further work on the actual land acknowledgement continues. Back to Gabby for some next steps.
And in addition to discussing the interim statement, we thought we'd also take this opportunity just to discuss with Mayor and Council where we see the project going forward. So it's anticipated that the municipality's land acknowledgement will recognize the Indigenous communities who have a historic, cultural, and long-standing connection to the land base on which the NRM is situated. And these groups include Akodene-Ko First Nation, Denetaw First Nation, Doig River First Nation, Fort Nelson First Nation, Kaska Nation, Prophet River First Nation, and the Métis community. Going forward, it's recommended that a guiding document be developed to equip council and staff with the knowledge needed to develop their own land acknowledgement statements and incorporate them accordingly. It's intended that this approach in developing a guiding document will encourage cultural awareness, allow us to develop and foster meaningful relations with Indigenous neighbors, and promote greater understanding of the Indigenous communities located on the land base. So going forward, as Hillary noted, it's expected a draft guiding document or a draft of the guiding document will be presented to Regional Council for consideration in the coming months. And then following this initial review, it would be recommended that our engagement partners be provided an opportunity to comment on the draft. And following this review process, this document would then be brought back to Regional Council with the inclusion of the perspectives of our engagement partners for further review and consideration. So at this time, again, as Hillary noted, we have included an attachment of an interim land acknowledgement, more of a guiding document for council's consideration. And included in the report is a recommendation that this interim land acknowledgement guidelines, the attached document, be incorporated into municipal operations by both council and staff to encourage continual awareness of the culture and history of the Indigenous peoples of the region. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Shepherd, any further comments?
No.
Any comments, councillors? Councillor Penny.
I'd just like to say how happy I am and proud to actually be a part of this, and really grateful for all the great work you both are doing on this. And yeah, I look forward to this moving all the way forward until we get to a proper acknowledgement. I would be in favor of making a motion now for option number 1. I want to give a chance for everybody else to make their comments.
Okay, we'll get back to you, Councillor Penny. Any other comments? Councillor Gerwin.
Yeah, I think what a great process. Thanks so much for everybody that's been involved in it. I too think it's a very worthwhile endeavor, and I really like how sensitively everybody has been around ensuring that everybody's included and that we're not just creating a blanket statement. So I think the process itself is very meaningful. And I agree with Councillor Penny, but I would like us to think about if we are going to use this interim statement at the beginning of our meetings until we get a more permanent one. I would like to have a discussion about that.
Very well. Councillor Andrews.
Since we've already established many of the nations in our region, do we want them listed in our interim statement already? Or is that something we shouldn't be doing already? Like, I like the statement, but could we not refer to the nations we already have listed in the report?
May I?
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering without permission from all of, like, I wouldn't want to do that without running that by all of the nations that are involved in this statement. So it might not be something that everybody wants to be included in. Would be my thought because once we get the statement, it's going to be a collaborative effort, right, between council, staff, and all of the nations. So then everybody will agree on what might be used in what territory might be different from in another territory, I imagine too. So I would like to wait.
We could just list them as the ones we're engaging with. I don't know. I just thought it brought more awareness to just how many different nations we are in contact with in our region. If they don't want to be in our final statement, that would be okay. I'm just thinking of maybe just, getting it out there sooner than later, which nations we are speaking with. And that way we can kind of have it, well, maybe we forgot something.
Councillor Souls.
I just would remind us that it's not very long ago that in our own community, we see that there's still division regarding which groups, internal divisions as to who should be and who shouldn't be a First Nation. And I think that it's a better starting point to go with what we have here rather than adding any names to it at this point, simply because as soon as you add the names, you then single out the particular groups, and the others who are on the other side of an argument are left off out of it. So I appreciate this interim as it's actually a pretty good balance.
Thank you. Councillor Roper, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A very important initiative. Very happy to support this. Happy with the interim acknowledgement, and I'd be willing to second Councillor Penny's motion.
Very well, thank you. So from what I'm hearing, the interim statement is fine. And Councillor Andrews would like to maybe have staff look at putting the names of other First Nations after talking to them, and do that for after the interim statement when we get to the final statement. Very well. Councillor Penny, then I'm going to take it that you're recommending the option one.
Yes, make the motion of option one.
That the interim land acknowledgement guidelines be incorporated into municipal operations by regional council and the NRM staff to encourage continual awareness of the culture and history of the Indigenous peoples of the region. And Councillor Roper, you're seconding that motion, I take it?
Yes.
Very well. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Can we have a discussion on whether we want to use this interim statement at the beginning of our council meetings?
Very well. Anybody have any comments on that? Councillor Penny.
I would be in favor that we start using this interim statement going forward in all our meetings.
Anyone opposed? None? Councillor Andrews? You're in favor.
Oh, definitely in favor. I kind of assumed that we were going that way anyways.
Keep. Very well.
I would make that motion then.
Could we ensure then that this is on the preamble to the council agenda then in the appropriate place? That we'll read this interim statement then at the beginning of every council meeting. Thank you. Sure, I think we will go for a motion. Councillor Andrews.
I'll second.
You made the motion. Councillor Andrews seconds. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Administration report number 23, BC Caribou Recovery Program update. For information, Ms. Shepherd. Ms. Jacobs.
Are we Caribou report or?
We are Caribou report,
Okay.
yes.
It's all right.
That's okay.
So our second report tonight speaks to an update that's recently been provided by the BC Caribou Recovery Program. As you'll recall, this past fall, between September and November, the BC Caribou Recovery Program sought feedback and input from stakeholders, interest groups, and citizens of BC on a 5-year approval for continued predator reduction to support caribou recovery across the province. And as part of this feedback that was sought, an online portal was established. It's noted that correspondence was sent on behalf of Regional Council to the BC Caribou Recovery Program in November of 2021 that outlined the views of Council concerning the province's approach to caribou recovery and predator management. And it also advocated for deeper engagement with both First Nations and regional stakeholders within the region. We also took the opportunity to complete the online feedback form that was available through the program at that time. So that being said, we're coming to you tonight to provide an update on what has occurred since we sent correspondence to the province. So recently, the program, BC Caribou Recovery Program, released a report that summarized the findings of the survey that it had released in the fall. So it's noted that approximately 15,000 surveys were completed between September and November of 2021. And the majority of survey respondents reside in the province, of which 80% live in the southern or southwestern portions of BC. The report also noted that approximately 59% of respondents were against predator reduction for caribou recovery, and 37% supported predator reduction. It's also noted that predator reduction has been approved under the Wildlife Act and Parks Act for a 5-year implementation window beginning in the winter of 2021 and 2022. So noting that with the feedback received, the province will be going forward with predator management in certain parts of the province. Along with an update on predator reduction, there's also some new or updated information regarding population estimates for caribou herds of BC. I'm going to link to some of that additional information was just included in the report out of interest. It's also noted there have been some snowmobile closures in certain areas of the province with the intent to support caribou recovery. And a map showing some of those closure areas was included as an attachment to the report. And lastly, it's also noted that maternal penning, an additional means to further support caribou recovery, will be taking place through the Arrow Lakes Caribou Society, also in 2022. So generally just an overview of some additional information we've received through the BC Caribou Recovery Program, and should additional information become available, we'd certainly be pleased to share that.
Thank you. Comments, Councillor Penny.
Again, I'd like to thank you very much for the report. It's great, and I'm definitely in favor of receiving any updates. I just want to point out that I see a little tiny glimmer of hope here that they read into the responses that were given, that, you know, they say 80%, I think was the number. 80% of the respondents to the survey lived in southern and southwestern part of the province, which have no idea for the most part what's going on up here. And so obviously they engage with you know, stakeholders in the area to make this decision to continue with the predator management, right? So a little glimmer of hope. It's baby steps, but glad to see something.
Councillor Gerwing.
I was wondering, to Councillor Penny's point, if we wanted to pick up on that statistical fact and ensure that the province, obviously they're aware of it, but maybe we can do some more advocacy work around that, like writing a letter to highlight this and pointing out how it doesn't match with what actually the feelings are in the Northern Rockies and some of our statistical data around it. Like, you know, I just see it as an opportunity where it just is an opening for some more advocacy work around that
Okay, Mr. Barry, who is the minister responsible now for this?
So, sorry, I went through all the reorg today, so it's your Forrest, Conroy.
Well, isn't Minister Conroy is Minister of Forest, but isn't this natural resources and whatever, which is Minister Osborne?
So Minister Josie Osborne's moved to that ministry now, but we'd have to confirm to see if that alignment has changed in terms of where it sits with the reorg that just got announced on Friday, I believe, was the announcement today. I confirm with the minister. Sorry,
Just
yeah.
to see which minister is
Just to make sure we
responsible
got
for it, because they've had some shuffling.
They've done some alignment.
Yeah, Councillor Goring.
I wanted to add too that I really appreciate getting these updates. So at the end of your report, it says if regional councils consider similar communication to be of value. I consider it to be of great value. And as information is, more information is gleaned or whatever, like having it prepared in this type of a report where it's, you know, a brief historical look at just helps me to remember all of the details and also to locate the details as I need them. So I very much appreciate the outline of this report and would really like to get more. Yeah. So do you need a motion about the advocacy, whatever that, so I
Let me-
would make a motion then.
Let me just see if there's any other comments first, and then we'll come back to the motion. Are there any other comments on this report? No. Councillor Roper, no. Very well. Councillor Goring, a motion.
Okay, so I don't know, I'll probably be an essay, Teresa, so sorry, but I make a motion to seize upon this opportunity to work with the statistical data as presented in this report, highlighting the differences in the point of view from the NRM residents' perspective to people that are completing a survey from outside of our country.
And do we want to send that report to the minister responsible then?
If that's, I would like to see an advocacy piece around that. I don't want to limit it because I don't, like, staff might have some really good ideas about where it should go,
Okay.
who should see it, maybe the media. Like, I just find it really interesting that people from outside of our country are filling in this survey, talking about the caribou in this region. Like, I just want to make sure that that, you know, is highlighted and that doesn't become part of the provincial, this isn't part of the motion, sorry. You know, it doesn't become part of the accepted that this is the way the residents of BC feel, because it's not. So, yeah.
And I think, you know, the grizzly bear hunt is a good example of that as well, that, you know, the narrative is sort of taken over by others south in the southern parts of British Columbia, and the people who familiar with these issues in the north are a small population, and they simply look at the numbers on the surveys, and that's a bit concerning. Councillor Penny, did you have another comment?
Just another comment to further Councillor Gerwing there. 15,196 surveys were completed, and out of that, it only leaves 2,000 of them to have been completed in the north. So, you know, it's sad that we have so many users. I'm just wondering about BC Wildlife. We mentioned them. This is something, because they do a lot of advocacy work and get out to people. And even if us as counselors, make sure we reach out to any group that we know and show them, you know, people are taking the time. This is a very small percentage of the population of the southern population, but we need to make sure that we're heard more. I mean, we got lucky here that they didn't just go by the numbers, right? If they went by the majority of what the survey said, we would be stuck. So we need to make sure we advocate as well, all the groups that we can. So
I don't recall getting a survey about what I think of SkyTrain in Vancouver. It didn't reach my desk, so, you know, they're not asking me what I think of SkyTrain, and nor should they. But I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Maybe they should keep their SkyTrain surveys down there and their caribou surveys up here.
Did we get a whole motion?
I believe we got a whole motion. I'll ask for a seconder for Councillor Goring's motion.
I'm not second, Mayor. I just, if we can.
Good.
Just because what we're trying to ensure is that the motions reflect the intent, given that, so Teresa, to put you in the spot, if you can just throw out what you have. Yeah. Because some days, honestly, in the mornings when we review this, sometimes we struggle because we have this dialogue and we just want to make sure that we're hitting the intent.
Can't understand that. What? Teresa.
To seize upon this opportunity to work with the statistic evidence in this report to highlight local views versus those from outside the region.
Perfect. And then just that we use that in an advocacy, use that to expand our advocacy role around the Caribou Recovery Program.
A seconder for Councillor Goring's motion.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. And Ms. Shepherd, if you're still there. Admin report number 24, Northern Rockies Environmental Advisory Committee. Miss Hillary Shepherd.
Hi, still here. So this report comes in follow-up to the kickoff of the Northern Rockies Environmental Advisory Committee. We had our first meeting at the beginning of the month, and that was an opportunity for members to get to know each other and become familiar with the purpose of the EAC, as well as review the draft terms of reference. A topic for council's consideration is travel expense reimbursement. So with the municipality spanning the vast distance that it does, in the interest of promoting participation that is reflective of the diverse experiences throughout the region, council may wish to provide travel expense reimbursement to attend Fort Nelson for committee business. There are currently 2 NRRM committees, as you know. One is virtually attended right now, and the other is a combination of in-person and online. There are 2 committee members at this time who may travel to Fort Nelson for committee business. So for this report is for decision. I'm seeking approval of the draft terms of reference, and the travel expense reimbursement is for council's consideration.
Thank you. Any comments, councillors? Councillor Penny.
I'm in favor of this. I would hate to see us miss out on people wanting to be involved in a group and just costs being prohibitive to them. So that's all I'll say into it.
Are there any other comments? Very well. Did you want to make that a motion, Councillor Penny?
Yes, I'll make the motion that we option number 1, the Northern Rockies Environmental Advisory Committee terms of reference be approved as presented. No,
I would
along
second
with,
that.
and then that is along with the per diems.
Do we want to do it together or?
Do you need 2 separate motions or one will do?
It's up to council.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Slam them into one motion then. All right, moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Goring. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Barry, I think last time we had talked about this was going to be for all committees. Is this specific to the environmental
This one
committee?
is the council that passed a motion to have it to cover off any council committees, so it's.
Yeah, did we do that last time or no?
No, that's why I thought maybe we'd do it separately.
All right. Very well. We could do a motion right now that the per diems cover all committees.
For the travel component.
Yeah, travel. Yeah, so I'll make that motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
May I add one more thing then for council's consideration? Because there is one different, sorry, I'm having an allergy attack, you guys, people. That's why I've got this mask on. That's why I'm coughing. So anyways, just so you know. So the one thing difference in this terms of reference is it also includes child minding. So you can get $15, $20 towards child minding. So I'm just wondering if council would consider that for other groups as well.
I don't see
Other
why not. I
committees.
think the idea here is to do for the environmental committee what we do for all committees. If it's good for the environmental committee, it would be appropriate for all the committees. And so I would expect the motion that I had made would encompass that. So is there anybody who disagrees?
I don't disagree that it should be included, but I don't think it would have been encompassed in here just because of the way it was written. I do know that we did speak of this though in the last meeting and it was meant to be. So if we need a separate motion, then that we would also span the childcare benefit to all committees, I'd make that motion.
Yeah, the wording is be eligible for an honorarium if required for child minding services in the amount of $20 per meeting in the interest of recruiting diverse membership without limiting participation.
Very well. Call that motion by Councillor Penny and a seconder, Councillor Gerwin. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Airport parking, Mr. Josh Humphreys.
Good evening,
Hello,
Mayor and
Mr.
Council.
Humphreys. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourselves?
Good.
Good. So tonight I'm here to speak to the paid parking system. Basically, we're seeking direction from the Regional Council on how to proceed with the system due to the level of investment required to maintain it. As you guys are aware, the system was installed back in 2014 based on a grant that basically paid for the whole system. Over the number of years, we've had a little bit of upgrades and things done to it, but we've still seen a net revenue of $140,000+ received to the municipality. However, we have had actually quite a few challenges over the life of the system, including the last 2.5 years where it's been primarily down. We get it going again and then it fails and we get it going again. So we've really had some opportunity with a third-party provider, and that didn't really go too far. So we reached out to WPS, the Parking Solutions. They're the manufacturer. They had assured us that they would be able to probably get the system operating. Unfortunately, with the costs associated with that. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a time window for this system as it starts to become obsolete in 2026, which might require us to upgrade at that point. As you guys are aware, the airport does certainly need to have revenue streams coming in. So I guess the bit of the question is, is this something that we want to keep as a revenue stream or something that we would potentially like to consider abandoning? There is also some other options that are out there that I didn't really look into too deeply, but somewhat, that there's some cloud-based technology that's starting to present itself that might be of interest to us.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor? Any comments? Councillor Andrews.
Well, just seems with, it hasn't been working for the past couple of years. It's not revenue we're going to be technically losing. And it's going to be obsolete possibly in 4 years. I say we revisit it 4 years and we axe the program until then. That's kind of how I see it.
Councillor Penny.
Beat me to it. As I think we discussed before, right now, we feel we'd only be further taxing our residents at this point. We don't have much in the way of industry flying in and out. We don't see the lineup of vehicles parked out there. The whole reason I'm sure that this came up back at the time, our parking lot was full of company vehicles and the community was seeing no benefit of it. So yeah, I would like to see us just abandon it for now and revisit it at a time that we see fit.
Councillor Gerwin. Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Souls.
Why is it that people can create such lousy systems that don't work And then we pay for those systems and there's no remedy. There's no remedy. This happens more than we like. Happens often.
So I too have been trapped inside the gates of the parking for an extended period of time and caused huge amounts of annoyance. I am a little concerned with the $140,000 that we will be losing in revenue. But if the system doesn't work and it's simply going to frustrate our citizens, then I agree with the rest of council here that this has to be abandoned at the time. But I would like you to keep an eye on some of the options under that cloud-based system to see if there is something that comes back. If not this year, 2023, 2024, at some time, if there is a system available that looks like it's going to work properly, I would like to see you come back to council and bring that forward to us, because I think it is, particularly if industry does pick up, it is a revenue stream for the municipality, and I think it's an important one. $140,000 is not nothing. But in the meantime, I don't think I'm prepared to see the citizens frustrated with that system. Councillor Penny.
I just wanted to point out, without a doubt, I'd hate to see us lose any revenue. But that 140,000 net revenue seems to me to be based over 8 years, with majority of it happening, I would imagine, in 2014. I don't think we have the actual numbers of what happened in 2014, but I'm pretty sure we've seen very little in the last probably 7 years. So, and if it looks like we could make money again, I'd be all for putting another system in.
Excellent. Okay. Do we need a motion?
Need a motion to abandon the system, and just to clarify too, like the initial conversation was specific about not adding additional costs to the residents at the airport. And then Mayor, you'd commented around looking for an item. So it's kind of some conflicting information in terms of the cloud-based system that Josh spoke of. It's more of what you're seeing now, especially in the larger centers where they're getting rid of the typical gates and whatnot. It's a system where you go in, you put in your license plate, you make your deposit based on that, and then we can acknowledge if the person's paid or not. So you're either paid or you're not paid. There's systems to deal with in terms of if it's a fine or whatnot, but no physical gates typically. So you're not getting locked inside. But that said, again, I mean, I guess there's two components. I mean, obviously understand the council's desire to abandon this system. It makes sense. That's why the report came forward. The other piece is, are you looking for us to look for something right now for a system, or do you want to revisit it, a year or two down the road? Honestly, to Councillor Penny's point, the 14 was probably the best year. 15 not so bad. The system will be these costs, if the system was reliable, which that's the wild card, we would recoup the costs in revenues from current year traffic. The wild card, of course, is we don't have a whole lot of faith that the system's going to work reliably between now and the end of life at 2026. So.
Very well. I'll make the motion that we abandon the system. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gerwin.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to to make a statement, because I think Councillor Andrews and Councillor Penny said what I wanted to say, but then as Mr. Berry is seeking clarification, I'm of the opinion that I would not be in favor of using taxpayers' dollars to purchase a system that then causes them to pay another fee to use our airport. So just get on, I want to be on record. I would not support any system like that to use taxpayers' dollars to then further have a fee at the airport.
Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Humphries, just wondering, given the high cost of the initial system installation, does the system right now have any value at all to anybody? Can we consider it a surplus asset and sell it to someone that might need parts?
Yeah, Councilor Roper, unfortunately, I don't think there is any value to it. This specific system went into a couple other airports in our region. Grand Prairie ended up giving it all its leftover pieces to Fort St. John, and it's kind of like basically it's deteriorating And quite honestly, the life left in this stuff is not great. So there's probably no value at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion that we abandon the pay parking system at the airport. Do I have a second to that move? Seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Admin report number 26, budget consultation for information. Mrs. Laval.
Thank you, Mayor. As you can see in the report in front of you, through the both the virtual open house, the online survey, and the boards that were put up at the rec center, we've received no feedback on any of our budget information that's been placed out in the community.
Thank you.
So at this point, we would be seeking council's endorsement to proceed to the final budget meeting next week.
Very well. Any comments? Councillor Penny.
I'm glad that it reached 151 people on Facebook. That's something. That's it.
And no news is good news, right?
Very well. I'll make the motion then that we proceed to the next steps. Seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Revenue anticipated borrowing bylaw number 200. Mrs. Pike.
I can speak to it, Mayor, if you save the time for Tony to go up.
Okay,
We were only supposed to do first, second, third reading at the last meeting. I think it went to adoption, or well, the adoption really wasn't worth anything, honestly. So we were required 2 meetings. So it's in front of council tonight for adoption.
very well. Councillor Andrews will make the motion for adoption. Councillor Penny will second Councillor Andrews' motion for adoption. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning Amendment, Commercial Recreational Bylaw number 201. Speaking to this, Rada.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tonight, I'm presenting a bylaw report contemplating Council resolution dated May 10th of 2021. According to this resolution, Council had advised that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality proceed with removing commercial recreational permitted use from the specific parcel located at 4704 54th Street. Let me give you a brief summary of its background. Commercial recreational use gymnasium, fitness club, and personal service establishment had been executed on the property since 2012 with the authorization of temporary use permit. Upon expiration of 2 consecutive temporary use permits, a zoning amendment was performed and adopted in 2019, permitting commercial recreation use to the specific property within the M1 light industrial zone. In 2021, a rezoning process was initiated towards removing commercial recreation use from the property as the business was no longer executing on this site. Therefore, the purpose of this bylaw report is to revise the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality zoning bylaw by removing commercial recreation permitted use from the site-specific zone within M1 light industrial zone. And thus it is recommended to give first and second reading to an RRM zoning amendment bylaw and allow to proceed for public hearing. That is everything from my side.
Thank you. Any comments on this, councillors? Very well. I'll make the motion. The first, second, third reading be given from Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning M1 Light Industrial Zone Bylaw number 201, 2022, and that a public hearing on the amendment be scheduled for 6 p.m. on March 28th, 2022. Do Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Counselor Roper, or Counselor Souls. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank
And that
you.
was your first one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Good job. Thank you. Correspondence, Northern Rockies Region Municipality, letter to Curtis Shaw, President of Northwest Tel Incorporated Internet Service in the Northern Rockies Region Municipality. And further, letter from Lisa Bear, Minister of Citizen Services, re-broadband internet service speed study. Any comments on those? Very well. Council information package, February 16th, 2022. Council information package for February 23rd, 2022, received for information. Any comments on those information packages? Very well, hearing none. Move on to additions. So as everyone is aware, the war in Ukraine, where Russia's invaded Ukraine, we see on the news several countries have got behind this movement to support Ukraine. I think it's appropriate that the Northern Rockies Region Municipality fly the Ukrainian flag during these hostilities, either at the rec center or at the front street or both. Is there any comment on this? Councillor Souls.
One of the most encouraging things that I've seen in the last couple of days are the videos of thousands of Russians protesting in Moscow. And I was just thinking of how we've just been through the last while in Canada, where the weaponization of our flag is being used and abused. And the flags of nations belong to their people and not to their militaries or to their political leadership. And so I actually would really like to see, I would rather see a Ukrainian and a Russian flag hung together, because that is a symbol of something that the people themselves on both sides of that border want.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Very well. I don't know if it would be particularly popular to hang a Russian flag along with the Ukrainian flag, but I do understand your sentiment that this is, the people are something totally different than their government sometimes. And it is kind of distressing to see the Russian government doing what it's doing to the Ukraine. So I will ask for a motion that we purchase some Ukrainian flags and fly them in the appropriate places at the rec center and on the front street.
I would second that motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All those in favor? Carried. Any opposed? Thank you. Any council reports? Councillor Gerwing.
Yeah, so I need to beg forgiveness here when we approve the February 14th meeting minutes. I missed my little sticky here that I wanted to talk about on the resolution 2422 by Gerwin Penny, that staff look into how a working group to address addictions in the community where there is an impact and overlap on policing matters, ... Was my understanding, or what I was trying to articulate that I'm sure I goofed up, is that we come together, start this committee with the police and associated agencies or individuals to look at policing in general. I wasn't thinking that I was speaking addiction, like just to the addiction issue, but I was trying to articulate that it should be a committee looking at policing in general in the community. So I don't know what we do now, like whether, I don't know how council remembers that or if it matters to them, but it matters to me that.
Well, I think we've had Anthony Fletcher here and Mrs. Laval.
Sorry, Mayor. I was speaking with Acting Staff Sergeant Fletcher just the other day at the Emergency Services Committee meeting, and he did indicate that it was a broader community policing initiative. That was his understanding. That it was a broad community policing, not an addictions focused initiative.
Okay, Counselor Penny as well. So I don't know if we, now that I missed that at this beginning, I apologize again, I missed it. So now that those minutes have been adopted, can we make a change, or I'm not sure of the procedure?
Mr. Barry.
That's a great question. And I would usually defer to our clerk, who's not here currently, but we'll find out the key piece. So we confirm what we would do with the minutes. Councilor Grewing, in terms of the interpretation of the intent of council, we've clearly, obviously, that's definitely clear. So on the discussions, I just made some contact too with acting staff sergeant Fletcher today, now that I'm back in the office, to discuss some potential next steps regarding that also. But we'll get back to you regarding the minute.
Yeah, I think it's important to have it reflect what my intent was. So whatever you need me to do to make that change, let me know.
Very well.
So then I'll continue with my
Go ahead,
report.
yep.
Sorry, Mayor. So as Ms. Shepherd addressed earlier, the first meeting of the Environmental Advisory Committee took place February the 3rd. We had 13 members, including myself and Hillary. 11 attended the first meeting. The meeting evaluations were very positive, and our next meeting will take place April the 12th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I attended February 4th, the Community Health Plan Steering Committee. And in response to interruptions to X-ray services at Fort Nelson General Hospital, they are going to investigate the possibility of having certified casual on-calls in the X-ray department. Work continues around the issue of Fort Nelson General Hospital not meeting requirements to train ultrasound techs and assess the accreditation required for the Fort Nelson General Hospital to offer other types of ultrasounds, as well as investigate opportunities for a traveling service on a reoccurring basis. So we should see an update on those points in March. Work continues seeking clarification on the regulatory component of the MSP requirement. And that's referencing on page 2 of the Northern Health Briefing Notes under Diagnostic Services. And that report specifically notes that MSP is, so that's the number you need for billing, right? Is driving limitations by restricting billing available at a site. So the province gives you an MSP number. Okay, this is my understanding. The province gives a site an MSP number for services that they're allowed to bill for. So it's my understanding that the Fort Nelson General Hospital doesn't have an MSP number for certain services around the ultrasound, that although our techs could be certified to do it, our machine can do it, our room isn't accredited for some reason or not, and we don't have an MSP number. So we kind of thought that that might be low fruit, that if we got that problem solved, that could give us the ability to offer a more fulsome service around when we do have ultrasound services. And then just an update on the projected timeline for the Northern Health business case analysis to determine costs associated with purchasing a CT scanner for the hospital should be released sometime in March. And the Community Health Plan Implementation Lead contract position has once again been posted. And in my opinion, a lot of the committee's success has been a result of this dedicated coordination efforts of the partners. So hopefully we can get this position filled as soon as possible. Our next meeting will be on March the 4th. On February 10th and February 24th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce board meeting, and there's the chamber approved a new policy outlining the chamber's expectations of the NRM council liaison position. I've sent a copy to staff, and staff has assured me that this document will be given out to all future NRM chamber liaisons so that they will know upfront what the expectations are. You won't go in there blind. And the chamber board is hoping that the NRM and the chamber can work together on creating a response and a community engagement piece and any other possible work around the electoral boundaries reforms, with the understanding that we be proactive versus reactive. So I'm sure everybody knows the province is looking at changing the electoral boundaries, and there's some talk that, you know, the whole north of the province, west and east, could be combined into one seat. I mean, that's just that's gossip at this point in time, or fears or whatever. But yeah, so the chamber is wondering if the municipality would like to work together to be proactive around this initiative, instead of waiting for the report to come out that, you know, makes us a super, I don't know, super riding. Yeah, so if we could talk about that. And then I also attended Chief Gale's presentation to the Provincial Chamber of Commerce entitled The Energy Transformation to Lower Carbon. And she was presenting on behalf of the Fort Nelson Major Projects Coalition. And the presentation was so very well done, very informative. And she presented on the Fort Nelson First Nations geothermal project. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And I did talk to, well, I have talked to a lot of mayors, Mayor Ackerman, about just that electoral reform, and Dan Davies, and they are very worried that this is exactly what's going to happen. So I would be glad, for my part, to work with the Chamber of Commerce to make our case. And I think there is a good case to be made for why we need two separate ridings here.
Would you like me to make that into a motion, please?
Sure.
So I'd like to make a motion that the NRM mayor and council work together with the Fort Nelson Chamber of Commerce to develop strategies to proactively address the possible electoral reform changes, boundary changes.
I have a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any other council reports? Very well. I think I had a council report, but I left it in my office again, so sorry. Are there any virtual attendees that have any questions? Very well. In that case, I'll ask for a resolution that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 91C and K of the Community Charter. Moved by, seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? And we are in closed meeting. And we are in a regular council meeting. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned.